In the summer of 1986, three best friends disappeared without a trace from a quiet lakeside town, leaving behind only whispers and an eerie tape recorder that would reveal more questions than answers. What happened to them in those final silent moments captured on that recording? Where did they vanish? And why does their story still haunt the boundary between memory and mystery? Tonight, we delve deep into the chilling tale of three friends missing at the lake, an enigma that has lingered for nearly 4 decades. This is not just a story about disappearance. It's a haunting echo from the past, a vanished narrative forever strained by uncertainty and shadow. Through shattered timelines and cryptic sounds, we reach into a dark corridor of fear and grief, a tale spun with suspense, loss, and the uncanny silence of the unknown. Our story begins in the summer of 1986 in the small town of Pine Hollow, nestled beside the vast and tranquil Lake Ellery. Pine Hollow, a close-knit community of just over 5,000, was the kind of place where everybody knew each other's names, and the lake was the heart of childhood summers and late-night bonfires. A place where life appeared straightforward, untouched by the chaos of the wider world, until that summer changed everything. The mid-1980s were simpler times in Pine Hollow. The town's rhythms echoed with the innocence of youth bicycles on gravel roads, fishing poles leaning against weathered docks, and the distant hum of cassette players blasting pop hits. But beneath this peaceful veneer, where shadows lengthened at twilight, something darker stirred. 3 young lives full of promise, friendship, and laughter were about to vanish, leaving a wound that time has refused to heal. This vanished story is more than just a missing persons case. It's a puzzle etched into the fabric of a community, a question mark that breathes through the leaves, whispering over Lake Ellery's surface. Tonight, we journey into the heart of this true mystery, a story veiled in suspense, punctuated by clues on a forgotten tape recorder, and forever marked by absence. It was early July when the 3 friends, Mark Sanders, 17, Lisa Carmichael, 16, and David Dave Porter, 17, gathered for what would become their last known day together. All 3 had grown up in Pine Hollow inseparable since elementary school. To their families and friends, they were typical teenagers, bright and full of youthful dreams, yet rooted deeply in this small town where the world outside felt distant and unthreatening. Mark was the unofficial leader of the trio. A tall, athletic boy with a mop of unruly brown hair and eyes that sparkled with curiosity, he was known for his easy charm and protective nature. He worked at the local bait shop during weekends, a detail that connected him intimately with Lake Ellery. His parents, both teachers in town, described him as responsible yet adventurous, a typical adolescent caught between childhood and adulthood. Lisa was the heart of their group. Petite and spirited, with fiery red hair and freckles, she had a laugh that could light up any room. Lisa was artistic, often found sketching by the lakeside or scribbling poetry in her worn notebook. She dreamed of leaving Pine Hollow for the big city, but loved the serenity of their hometown in equal measure. Dave, the quietest of the 3, was a thinker. His thick glasses framed solemn green eyes, and his shy demeanor often masked a quick wit and deep loyalty. He volunteered at the library and was fascinated by the mysteries in old books and local legends. To Mark and Lisa, Dave was the calming force amid their adolescent noise. The week leading up to their disappearance had been suffused with summer heat and languid days. School was out, and Pine Hollow's youth sought refuge by the lake, swimming, exploring, or simply lying on the docks dreaming. The local newspaper sported headlines about the upcoming Pine Hollow Summer Festival, a tradition that brought families together for music, food, and fireworks. On the evening before the disappearance, the trio had spent hours at Mark's house, playing cards and planning their next day's adventure, to the less trodden northern beaches of Lake Ellery. The trees lining the shores were dense, casting deep shadows over the water, a stark contrast to the town's open fields and bright summer skies. Their families likened them to any ordinary teenagers full of hopes, worries, and the joyful naivety of youth. But beneath the laughter and innocent plans, a subdued tension drifted, an unspoken feeling that something might upset the fragile balance of that summer. July 14th, 1986 began as any summer day in Pine Hollow. Warm sunlight poured over the town, birds sang, and a gentle breeze rustled through the leaves. The three friends had arranged to meet at 10 a.m. by the old docks near Lake Ellery's northern shore, an isolated spot known to few but their group. Mark had packed a small rucksack with essential sandwiches, soda, a map of Lake Ellery, and most notably an old tape recorder he'd borrowed from the school's audio club, a device they anticipated using to capture their day's stories, songs, and laughter. Lisa arrived, cycling down the winding dirt road, her red hair catching the sunlight like a flame. Dave came shortly after, carrying his sketchbook and a thermos. The trio exchanged warm greetings, excitement shining in their eyes as they set off toward the beach. Witnesses recall seeing them around midday, laughing by the water's edge, wading into the shallow lake, their carefree energy infectious, even to strangers passing by on boats or walking nearby trails. But as afternoon approached, another tone entered the scene. A sense of unease felt only in hindsight after all was lost. The final confirmed sighting came just before 3 p.m. A local fisherman, John Halbert, noticed the three friends sitting quietly beneath a large oak tree that sprawled across a rocky outcrop, a spot secluded from the rest of the beach. Mark had the tape recorder in hand, the others close by. John remembered thinking it was unusual how silent they suddenly had become. No laughter, no playful chatter, only the soft clicking sounds of the tape recorder's buttons. Minutes later, the trio vanished. When Mark's parents began to worry that evening, their uneasiness escalated. The three were last seen in daylight, but as dusk settled over the lake, no sign of them surfaced. Their bikes were found near the dock, belongings scattered, their backpacks, soaked shoes left behind. No footprints led away, no cry for help ever heard. The night stretched on with families searching frantically, their calls swallowed by the cold quiet of the water. No one could fathom how three teenagers could disappear so completely, as if swallowed by the lake itself. In the immediate hours following the disappearance, Pine Hollow's community mobilized, desperate to find any trace of the missing teens. Search parties formed, combing the surrounding woods, scouring the lake with flashlights and canoes. The local police department launched an official investigation led by Detective Harold Green, a seasoned officer known for his methodical approach. Day after day, the search intensified. Divers explored the lake's murky depths. Helicopters probed the skies. Despite the extensive efforts, no body, no sign emerged. Volunteers left nearly 24-hour watches along the shoreline, hoping for any sign of the friends. As news spread, state police and eventually the FBI were called in, expanding the search radius and resources. Media coverage exploded. Pine Hollow suddenly found itself at the center of a gripping story. Broadcast across regional networks, three teenagers vanished without explanation. Detective Green held rigid interviews with family, friends, and potential witnesses. The tape recorder was found washed up on a rock near the northern shore 3 days after their disappearance, its cassette still inside. Played back under guarded conditions, what it revealed would chill investigators deeply. The recording began innocuously with laughter and chatter, snippets of conversations about the lake plans and music. But as the minutes progressed, the tape captured something else, strange echoes, muffled sounds, a rising undercurrent of tension. At one point, a panicked whisper. "Did you hear that?" followed by sudden noises that suggested a struggle or swift movement. The tape abruptly ended soon after. Questions mounted. Was the tape the last moments of the friends before something terrible happened? Were they alone, or had someone else been present? Attempts to analyze the faint background noises yielded no conclusive answers. Each theory seemed to open new avenues of doubt, but no clarity. Over the following months, every lead was followed and discarded. Sightings of 3 teenagers elsewhere proved false. No ransom notes, no demands, no ransom calls. The mysterious nature of their vanishing gripped Pine Hollow like a shadow that refused to lift. As investigations deepened, attention turned toward those who might have been connected. Pine Hollow's tight-knit nature made every stranger a person of interest. One of the earliest suspects was an enigmatic drifter named Carl Mitchell, who had recently arrived in town. Known for his odd behavior and frequent appearance near Lake Ellery shores, Carl had interacted briefly with the teens weeks before, but he claimed no knowledge of their whereabouts, and his alibi for the day of July 14th, though sketchy, couldn't be disproven. Then there was Greg Baxter, a local fisherman with a reputation for volatile temper. His jealousy toward Mark, stemming from an ongoing dispute over fishing spots, made him a person of suspicion. However, police found no physical evidence linking Greg to the disappearances. Rumors circulated of a decades-old urban legend tied to Lake Ellery, that of the whispering shadows, a ghostly presence said to lure unsuspecting wanderers into the water's depths. Though dismissed as superstition by most, the eerie noises caught on the tape fueled these speculations, enveloping the case in a spectral fog. Other theories point to accidental drowning cover-ups or even a premeditated abduction by someone unknown. Some locals whispered about secretive activities on the northern shore, but these claims never materialized into tangible proof. Conflicting testimonies added layers of confusion. A fisherman recalled seeing a 4th figure near the trio that day, but another witness denied this entirely. Even the family's environments came under scrutiny, revealing tensions and secrets that complicated the narrative yet yielded no breakthroughs. Each new theory deepened the mystery, and Pine Hollow's collective hope slowly eroded into unresolved dread. More than 20 years later, in 2007, the case saw an unexpected resurgence. A local historian, while cataloging town archives, uncovered a box of forgotten cassette tapes among old town council records, overlooked evidence from the initial investigation. Within these tapes, one contained a secretly recorded conversation from the day of the disappearance, captured by an amateur investigator who had shadowed the teens out of suspicion. The new recordings, though damaged, offered startling clues, whispered names, hints of conflict with an unknown 4th party, and fragments of strange sounds suggestive of a disturbance near the lake's northern shore. Additionally, advances in audio forensics allowed experts to enhance the tapes. They isolated voices that didn't belong to the 3 friends, recording a conversation laced with fear and urgency. The identity of the mysterious voices, however, remained elusive. Not far from the sites where the belongings were found, a metal box was discovered buried under decades of earth and roots by a hiker in the early 2010s. Inside were weathered possessions, letters, a frayed journal in Lisa's handwriting, and a photograph showing the 3 and the yet unidentified 4th person. This figure's face was obscured, but handwriting inside the journal mentioned a secret fear and threats, suggesting darker forces at play than previously imagined. The revelations pushed the case back into public focus, yet no new arrests or concrete answers followed. The 4th person remained a ghost, the final puzzle piece missing from a grim tableau. In a final haunting twist, an anonymous letter sent to the Pine Hollow police in 2015 hinted at a burial site far from the lake, with a map crudely drawn on its back. A search was conducted, but turned up only remnants, broken twigs, animal bones, and silence. The mystery deepened, the threads of truth slipping ever further into shadow. The tale of the three friends missing at Lake Ellery remains a sorrowful echo haunting Pine Hollow's shores. Mark, Lisa, and Dave the youth, so full of life, vanished in the summer of 1986, leaving behind fragmented clues, a tape recorder with whispers of fear, the scattered remnants of a last day in the sun, and a community forever marked by grief and unanswered questions. Over decades, searches were made, suspects considered, theories spun, yet the core truth remains beyond reach, lingering like a ghost over the lake's glassy surface. The faint sounds captured on that tape, the cryptic new recordings unearthed years later, and the mysterious fourth figure suggest a deeper story buried beneath years of silence and sorrow. This story exposes something universal: the human fear of the unknown, the fragile line between light and shadow, and the heartache of injustice that may never be served. It's a reminder of fragility, how lives can dissolve into the dark without warning, how communities bear the weight of memories frozen in time. As we look back on the vanished, we confront a chilling question that lingers long after the final tape stops. Do vanished souls ever find peace? Or do their stories continue to echo forever, trapped between the sounds we heard, the silence we never can explain, and the shadows we dare not pierce? The lake keeps its secrets, the night holds its breath, and the three friends remain lost, waiting perhaps for us to listen closely enough to hear their final whispered moments.